Hi, good evening. My name is Katie Gonzalez, and I'm the Secretary of CAC. I will be leading the meeting tonight. Thank you all for joining us. It's really important that everybody's here, and we appreciate the support of administration. And obviously, we want our parents to be involved so we can improve education for all students in Long Beach. So tonight we have a really good presentation. The first presentation we have is with Rochelle Martin and Tammy Lavelle. They're both from the district, and they are going to be both presenting about interventions, specifically about tutoring and other interventions that can help our kids. Okay.
Okay.
All right, sounds good.
If you go on the back, you could see a sheet.
Just to let you guys know, I'm going to give you a disclaimer. I don't have childcare tonight, so if there's little interruptions, it's part of being a mom and being involved in CAC. Okay, thank you.
So before Rochelle and Tammy go ahead and present, I just wanted to let people know that Tammy is the Director of District Initiatives and Accountability, and Rochelle Martin is our Special Education Curriculum Leader and also our Collaborative Co-Teaching Coordinator. So we just wanted to thank them both really for taking the time tonight to come out to talk about our interventions and programs and support options for students in the district, both with disabilities and without. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Does that mean we get a start?
That means we're on, Miss Rochelle.
Wonderful. It is absolutely a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you, board, for all your hard work and getting this organized and put together. And thank you to the community, as always, for being here as a support for all of our students. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I'm also going to ask Dr. Owens if he can share the slides in the chat as well, so that you have those as a reference.
Okay, Miss Rochelle, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do you happen to have the ones that are already translated for the parents to read on the screen?
We do. Yes. Hold on one sec. And those are the ones that I was hoping that Ken could put into the chat as well.
Those are in the chat.
Awesome.
In the chat will take you to the agenda for tonight, which is in both English and Spanish, and then this presentation, which is also in English and Spanish.
Awesome. Hold on. Let me grab it there. Thank you. I had multiple versions open, so we've got it. There we go. All right. So we're going to go over just looking at some of the tutoring and support options for our students right now in our school district. And Dr. Hina gave us a wonderful introduction. And we're going to be kind of taking different portions of this dependent on kind of our role in our area of support and expertise. So what are we going to be talking about tonight? First, we're going to talk a little bit about our district's process for tutoring options, right? There's been a little bit of a change with some funding we have, and really being able for us to look at what are some of the models that are provided. And then we're going to go into a little bit around, of course, we want to make sure that the models that we're using are effective for students. So we're going to look at what is some of the criteria for what we consider effective tutoring characteristics and how that kind of helped support our process within the models that we are using in the school district. Also, we're going to be talking about how you get information about tutoring and support options at your student's school. So part of that is we're going to talk a little bit about kind of the autonomy within schools of how they are designing support and tutoring options, as well as who are your best contacts at your school in order to make sure that you're accessing what's available for your child or for your children in our school district. And then I'm going to have the opportunity to talk about LRAP, our Learning, Recovery, and Acceleration Program, which was new and exciting that we have had one session so far. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that program was like, look a little bit at some of the feedback that we received, and then talk about LRAP session 2, which will be, we are in the planning phases for right now. So sharing some information about that as well. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and hand it over to my colleague, Tammy Lavelle, and she's going to talk to us about our district's process for tutoring options. So she's going to go into some of that information for you. And she might be able to tell you a little bit more about her role too. All right, Tammy.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Tammy Lavelle. I'm Director in the Office of Curriculum Instruction and Professional Development of District Initiatives and Accountability. And so some of the new initiatives that are outlined in our Learning, Acceleration, and Support Plan are those items that I'm overseeing, such as elementary school literacy initiative and tutoring. In addition to really having a hand in the accountability in ensuring that these interventions are working for our students, and we have data that is helping us identify best practices and to identify achievement in our students. And so tonight I'm happy to be here to share with you just some information around tutoring. It's gotten a lot of attention recently because we had a new option that was shared at our board meeting, and that is part of our Learning, Acceleration, and Support Plan. And so currently in our district, we primarily have 2 models for tutoring. We have tutoring that is solely site designed and facilitated, meaning a site would have a focus area. They have teachers at their site that are available to offer that tutoring support, and they use their site funding to fund it. So those options have been ongoing. In addition, we are in a 2-year contract with some outside tutoring vendors. And what these vendors have afforded schools the opportunity to do is that schools have been able to identify a focus area and then use these outside vendors to help facilitate the tutoring, because they bring their people to the school sites and then support tutoring. So up until this point, those have been primarily our models in our district. What's new this year is that our district has added some additional resources. We're all familiar, or we're hearing a lot about ESSER funding. And so these are pandemic recovery funds, both from the state and the federal government, that has afforded us opportunities to expand our offering of interventions that are differentiated to meet the needs of more of our students. And so that funding, in addition to current research, because there was a lot of research done during the pandemic about what type of tutoring services were working best for students. And we were hearing a lot, you might have heard about it, about high dosage tutoring, which is a very intensive tutoring model that is offered to students 5 days a week during the school day. And so what we did in our district is, with these resources and with all that new learning, we established a new opportunity that has been added just to our platform for tutoring that is a part of our Learning, Acceleration, and Support Plan. And so in one of the questions that we had received was around our recovery efforts for learning. And so I'm hoping that all of you in the audience are very familiar with our Learning, Acceleration, and Support Plan. There is a link to the document in our slide. It's on our district website. And what it does is it outlines many of these efforts that are in place in our district, including these new tutoring initiatives that I'm sharing with you tonight. And they are specifically laid out under pillar number 2, which is for acceleration and student support. So on this slide, I just shared with you that line item that is in every level that shows where this new intervention lives in the plan. And so what we learned as we were thinking about the research and analyzing the research and learning from the research is we realized that a lot of our models for tutoring in our district had some really effective characteristics, but there was a lot of learning to be done from the new models and specifically high dosage tutoring. And so as we submitted, what we did is we created what they call as a request for proposals. It's a public process where we tried to gather interest from tutoring companies around the nation. And we shared with them specific characteristics that we were looking for in our district in support of tutoring. And so these are the characteristics that we are expecting our most newest tutoring intervention to offer. And what you'll also notice is that many of these characteristics are already a part of many of our tutoring models. And so it's just a nice framework for us as we think about what are the most effective characteristics for tutoring, this is what we're calling them in our district. We want the most credentialed person to be providing this support, which would be the classroom teacher. And so with our tutoring companies, we know that that's not always the option for them to provide us teachers, but we want the most highly qualified person to be delivering these services to our students. It is provided for a minimum of 3 days per week. So you'll see on the slide that it says 30 minutes per session. That is the average. For our youngest scholars, that should be about 20 minutes. And for our older scholars, an hour. So 30 minutes is just the average, but we want it to be consistently delivered to our students a minimum of 3 times a week. Students will receive this intervention in groups of 5 or less. So that's really new in our district. If your child has participated in some of our other options, those are always larger groups, but we're seeing that the effects of high dosage tutoring, which are small groups, we are really modeling this number after the research that we learned from that model. It's offered before school and during and after school, which is traditional, but also during the school. So if a site can support tutoring during the school day, that's when we'd like for it to happen. Because what we've learned from the research is that when a tutor comes into a classroom and provides this support in the classroom, they have direct contact to the classroom and the content that is happening in that moment in that classroom. It's also aligned with classroom curriculum. So we have provided guidance to our tutors around our pacing in our district for ELA and math. One of the newest models for tutoring for our students, the focus is in foundational reading skills in kinder through 3rd grade, and then mathematics 4th through 12th. And so there has been guidance by it because the expectation is that our students guide them. Am I with you all? Are we okay? Can I continue, Katie?
I couldn't tell if it was my internet or if it's your internet, but it's coming in a little bit.
Yeah, okay. Slow down for me too, like the voice was slowed down, but you're fine now. Please continue.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead. You're welcome. So as far as just finishing up with these characteristics, we want it to be aligned to curriculum because we want the support to accelerate learning. We want our students to get support in their grade level content that is being taught in the moment. And so this is something new for us as well, but in an effort to accelerate our students, we want to give them just-in-time scaffolds so that they are able to keep up and accelerate with their learning. And then finally, we want to ensure that the tutoring is consistently delivered by one tutor to ensure that we are centering relationships with our students and increasing our students' sense of belonging when they're participating in tutoring. So the school's responsibility. So those were really our district efforts around new ideas for tutoring, a new option for tutoring. And so how the school site plays into this is that our schools, and we can go ahead and forward the slide. Thank you. Our schools have the autonomy to determine their tutoring options that they're being offered. So there are several options for tutoring, and depending on the needs of a site, they have the autonomy to pick and choose those options that best match the needs of their students to provide these interventions. And so sites identify students whose needs match the resource or the intervention. They are also responsible for implementing the tutoring. So all of our schools have a tutoring lead of some sort. It could be a different staff person with a different title, but one person who is designated as that lead at that school site to ensure that the tutoring interventions as they are being designed and are being implemented. So really having some accountability to the implementation and student outcomes. And that's the progress monitoring part. So that is another new part for us in our district, is that we now have designated leads who are tracking and progress, well, not really tracking, but progress monitoring the implementation of tutoring, and then our students and their achievement as they receive these interventions. So as a parent, the question, and I get this a lot, is, so how do I access these interventions? And so the first way would be, my biggest advice would be to wait to be notified. And right now, this is a very difficult time, as you all know, for us with staffing and ensuring that our schools are staffed with our teachers, given all of the challenges of the pandemic. And our tutoring companies, unfortunately, are experiencing the same challenges. So the lift has been slow but steady. And so many of our sites have yet to start some of their tutoring options that they're going to be offering to students. And so if you haven't already heard, you'll probably be hearing soon. And that's probably just a realistic timeline for implementation for tutoring. If you're already hearing that tutoring has started at your school site, or maybe you just kind of want to know more, maybe you're not at the school site enough and you might not know if it is or is not, we would encourage you first to talk to your child's teacher, because they would definitely know. And then, of course, after your child's teacher, we always encourage you to go to the counselor at your school site to find out more. And so as far as tutoring, those are just some new opportunities that are affording us a more differentiated way to provide interventions to all of our students in our district. And I'm going to now invite Rochelle back in, who is going to share with all of you an opportunity for support for our students with disabilities. So Rochelle.
Thank you, Tammy. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about an additional support specifically for students with disabilities, right? So Tammy just went over kind of a lot of the options for tutoring and support that are available within contact from your school sites, but I'm going to talk about, in addition to those, what is something that is specialized and really in support of students with IEPs. And that is our LRAP program, so our Learning, Recovery, and Acceleration Program. And I know that many of you were able to have your students participate in our first session, which thank you for bearing with us as we tried something new and really wanted to make sure that we tried to get something going in place early and letting us kind of design a program that we got some great feedback around, but also we're here to share with you some ways that we're going to take that feedback and really try to make it an even better experience for students. All right, so what is LRAP? Again, as Tammy shared, that there's some one-time funding that's become available to really support students with disabilities and all of our students due to the impact of the global pandemic. This was a way for us to provide this additional acceleration and support for students with IEPs. It is a Saturday program. So we offered 6 Saturdays in session 1, and I'm going to share a little bit around session 2 in just a minute. Really specialized support, and what do we mean by that? We mean it's being taught by teachers who have education specialist credentials, as well as providing language support and enrichment by speech and language pathologists. Again, just highlighting that LRAP is in addition to what is being offered, right? So your child might participate in some of these great options that Tammy just shared, right? Thinking about during the school day, and then additionally can participate in the Saturday LRAP program as well. For our first round, we offered virtual or in person, and they were 45-minute sessions. And of course, as we are continuing to plan, we are also continuing to really just follow all health and safety guidelines given by the Department of Public Health, making sure that we have a virtual option available and that we can look forward to, as things progress, we're going to hope for the best, but also just be ready to flex in support of the guidance that we're given. And it was, again, a 6-week session. Right. So I just wanted to share a little bit of kind of feedback from those who contributed feedback from session 1. So for our first session, which took place on Saturdays between October 30th and December 11th, we had a total of 135 students that participated in LRAP. I don't have like attendance information here to share with you, but I do know that students and families felt really that it was a positive experience when they were able to attend consistently, right? So we know that that additional consistency helps in supporting our students. And then I just put in a few little feedback pieces from families who completed the feedback survey at the end. We had 94% of those who responded say that this was a good use of their child's time, that they felt that their child benefited from it and that it worked for their families. Right? A Saturday option might not work for every family. That's why it's in addition to the other options that are being offered. So we know that it's not an option for everyone, but thinking about the whole range of what is available for in support of your child. And we had 97% that were either moderately to completely satisfied with the experience. But we, of course, wanted to find out what could we do better, what could we adjust, and what would be more supportive for your families and your children. And there was a couple of trends, and we've used those trends in your feedback in order to kind of apply them to session 2, which I'll share some information in just a minute. So one of the recommendations was more communication about how to express interest, right? Like I shared a little bit earlier, we really wanted to get something going right away. And with that, and with the busyness of the beginning of the school year, not everyone felt like they had enough time or enough information. So we are starting now with sharing information about session 2. We're going to share some timelines with you today so that you are on the lookout for communications in order to express your interest for your child if this feels right for you and your family. We also had feedback. We had a mix of feedback. Some said it was perfect to have just a 45-minute short session. It worked for their families, but we had quite a few that said, "Could we go a little bit longer? Can we increase that time a little bit?" And so we've been really thoughtful about how we can really support students' needs and also increase some options for the time that we were able to see students. And then also there was some feedback around just wanting more information from each session of what they worked on. Right. So wanting to know what did my child just spend, 45 minutes doing? So we've come up with some solutions to kind of help with that as well. All right. So looking forward to session 2.
Ahora empezar la sesión número 2.
Oops, all of a sudden I can hear translation. Are we okay? We're good?
Sí, disculpen.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay, thank you.
Gracias.
All right, so session 2.
Sí, entonces la sesión número 2.
I can hear the translation still. I'm not sure if I'm the only one.
I can hear it too. Yeah.
You can hear it as well, Dr. Simon?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, give me just 1 second. We're trying to figure out what's going on.
Okay, thanks, Chris. We'll take a pause, take a stretch break.
I was gonna
Rochelle, you could keep going. I'll keep going while they figure it out. Yes. Okay.
All right. So session 2, we are going to continue to offer this additional support on Saturday.
Can you
we are
guys
going
hear me?
to offer, yes, we can still hear you.
Sorry, I think
Escucha la traducción, por favor. No se escucha la traducción.
We're going to continue to offer for 6 weeks.
Gracias.
The dates of session 2, we're going to start on March 5th, and we'll run 6 Saturdays through April 9th. So one thing that is a little bit nice about these dates is within our first session, we had some holidays fall in there, and we skipped a session. We skipped one Saturday, but we know that for the importance of attendance, we wanted to really try to, make it during a time that we didn't have additional days off during the week. So hopefully that is helpful to families as well. Our program emphasis is going to be primarily on supporting literacy and language. So we're going to focus on foundational reading as well as reciprocal reading and writing. So we say we inhale reading to exhale writing with additional language enrichment and support. And then to really support that that need of wanting to be able to talk to your child about what did they work on in their session, right? We're always thinking about how we can continue to support and just wanting to have clarity around what's happening within each session. There will be a physical exit slip that your student will bring with them each day that lets you know what they worked on, so you can continue that support and conversations and reinforcing those skills and themes that have been supported within the opportunity. They will be a small group size, so groups will be between 3 and 5 students. Based on who expresses interest, we will then be creating groups based off of student needs. So we'll be looking at programs that they're in, as well as grade levels to group accordingly. We will have a virtual option or an in-person option. Virtual sessions are going to remain 45 minutes. But our in-person sessions, we're going to offer an hour and a half. This would be a way for us to see a lot of students and provide a lot of opportunities for working with the teachers and speech and language pathologists. And again, just keeping in mind, we're going to be ready to be flexible if needed, but hope for the best, and just wanting to keep, students and staff health and safety in mind. We will have multiple locations across the school district. And space is limited within LRAP. And just as Tammy kind of spoke about, some of the tutoring companies that we've been using and needing to, have the staffing in order to do that, we have to be mindful of kind of the capacity of our teachers and making sure that we have, enough space to work with all of those teachers. So we will have kind of limited capacity. If your child participated in session 1, we're giving priority to those who have not participated in session 1. And then we're going to be receiving interest based on the order that they are received.
Can I just interrupt for a second? I think we're still having problems with Spanish interpretation because I'm seeing people saying they can't hear.
Uh-oh.
Is the Spanish interpretation helping to correct this? All's good now. All's good. I'm sorry to interrupt.
We're good. That's okay. Katie, do we know where it might have been broken? And I can review, if needed, a couple of those pieces.
I think it was broken right before the virtual and in-person option when you were talking about the right in that area.
Okay. So I'll just pick up there. So we're keeping them to small groups, 3 to 5 students. We will be offering virtual and in-person, and just really preparing for different ways that we can support students. So we're keeping health and safety in mind. And if we need to flex, we will flex in order to do that. We will have multiple locations across the school district, and just space is limited in LRAP. So we're going to be accepting interest and going based off the order they're received, and giving priority to students who did not participate in session 1. Okay.
And Rochelle, can I just clarify one thing?
Sure.
So we use terms like pivot and I think you just said flex. And so just to kind of clarify what that means is, as we all know, we are in a major pandemic. We're in a kind of an uptick right now. One of the good things, I was just watching the news and it says in the past 7 days, we're starting to see a decline. But what that means when we say we're pivoting or whether we need to flex is that, we have to make sure that our community stays safe and our kids are safe and our staff is safe. And right now, We're feeling the same effects as everyone with staffing shortages. So if our numbers don't improve, then we'll have to, what we say is pivot and maybe offer these virtually. So again, we'll keep you posted as community members if we do need to, what we call pivot or change direction and offer things online. But our hope is that we still can offer those families this option for our kiddos who need that in-person support. So just wanted to kind of clarify that.
Thank you, Dr. Heenan. Yes, flexibility is the name of the game. All right, I wanted to just go over a couple of important timelines and dates because we really, we heard you that it felt like there wasn't enough communication. And so we're starting now, but we're also layering in a lot of pieces of sharing with teachers and sharing with administrators. But we want to make sure that you have these dates so you can be on the lookout as well for information that's being shared. So let me pull this back up. So this week, the week of the 10th, we are starting by sharing some information here with you all. Next week, we will be sending out a school messenger where there will be a letter that has all of the information and directions around how you complete the student interest form, which will be found on ParentVue. Okay, so it'll let you know when that will be open, and this will be taking place next week. So you'll receive a text message and an email if you are signed up for those notifications. Okay. The week of February 4th actually is the deadline for completing the interest survey. So if you're like me, I have my calendars all the time, and I put all my deadlines in there. I just did my school of choice for high school, school of choice for middle school. So this might be a deadline if this feels like an opportunity that you want to have your child participate in. This might be something that you want to put in your calendar as a deadline, that once you receive the letter next week, that February 4th is when we're going to be stopping taking interest form completion. Okay. The week of February 21st is when we'll be sending out notification if your child is received a session for LRAP, and then all of the information that you would need if they do receive a session time. So where you would go, directions for the first day, who the teacher, speech and language pathologist is, your time slot, all of that logistical pieces, right, that help us prepare and be successful. And then March 5th is the first day of LRAP. So again, we'll be starting on March 5th. So the last piece I wanted to share with you, and this is just not LRAP specific, but this is just in continuing to think about our work together and our partnership in supporting all of your children and all of our students here in Long Beach, and things that we can do in partnership. So for any of the options we're talking about, when your children are healthy, making sure that they can attend regularly, being sure to continue that open communication with your child's teacher or teachers, as you'll do, continuing to positively encourage them for all of their efforts and progress that they're making, and just asking questions, right? Asking, how you can receive extra options for support and tutoring, and how they're doing in the classroom, and different ways that we can collectively help and support all of our students. That really is the conclusion of what we have for you. So gracias, thank you. And I don't know, Katie, if exactly how much time we have for questions, but we can take some questions if that fits into the agenda.
We have 10 minutes for questions,
Okay,
and I think there has been some questions in the chat.
Sure, we can answer some questions, and then I have one more little thing that I just wanted to share before we move on. So if I could have like 30 seconds after questions before we transition, that'd be lovely. All right.
One of the questions by Gloria Rubalcaba, my student is in special class. Can he take tutoring that is being discussed?
Yes. So yes, tutoring is for all of our students in our district. So our students with disabilities can access tutoring.
Amelia asked if this tutoring is available at all schools.
So there are different options at different schools. So that's a very site-specific question. So that your best, the way you can find out is to go to your school site. And if you want to know about multiple tutoring options, you're probably best to go to your counselor to see what are those options that are available at our school site, because they are different at our school sites.
Okay. In the name of transparency, do you have any statistics that show who's getting tutoring by size, by demographic, by grades?
Right now, because we're barely starting, we do not have that data. As I shared earlier, something we are doing is we are requiring for our newest tutoring option, which is one of many, but one, we are requiring that we have what we call an intervention tracker. So it's a way for us to determine who is receiving tutoring, but we want everybody to keep in mind, it's very, very important, is that getting tutoring started this year has been very slow because of all of the challenges of coming back to school still in a pandemic. And so some sites have started, some have not started, but we are gathering data around students as these opportunities are available at their school sites. We are gathering data around who is accessing it. So yes, we will have more data around that, hopefully soon.
Do you have any publication that says what schools have what options of tutoring?
Each school site, that is specific to the school sites, because as I shared, all of our school sites are different. So you would need to go to the school sites to determine or to ask what options are available.
Do we have any statistics? Previous to the pandemic, some parents from special education will report that their kids were denied tutoring. Is this still happening, that special education kids get denied those services?
I'm going to defer to some of our special ed admin who are in the room around that question.
I haven't heard, and nobody's reached out to our office saying they've been denied. But if parents are saying that, please do, and we'll work with Tammy's office to make sure that interventions and supports are provided.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Heenan.
Thank you. So the question, and I saw, Dr. Heenan, that you already answered some of the questions on the chat, like who can I go to ask for the tutoring? You mentioned it was the counselor. Let's see.
I think Nubia has a question. I see her hand up.
Yes, Nubia, go ahead.
This is a clarifying question, because in the presentation by Tammy, she said that schools are given the autonomy to decide on how they dole out the tutoring. My son was denied tutoring, and I was told that there were only 45 spots allotted at that school, and they would only be given to students that came up 2 grade levels behind. And I chatted with other parents that have kids in the SDC classes, and their children didn't get in. So like my child's regression during distance learning and all that's going to look way more different. It's actually more grade levels behind, and somehow was still denied. And they said that this was a district decision, that it was out of their hands. So can you clarify?
Sure. So there are multiple options for tutoring available to school sites, to the different levels. And so some levels, there are like 5 different options. Some have 6 different options. The option that I believe you're talking about is option number one. It's the one that I spoke briefly about and more specifically about. It's one of a menu of tutoring options. So that's the one that's in our Learning Acceleration Support Plan. And so what happens is that when we determine what it takes to qualify or to be eligible for an intervention, these resources, especially like option number one, there's a limited amount of funding in that one option. And so a school has to determine, based on how they're responding to interventions at their school site, which of these options are available to which students, based on a student that would be eligible. And it is true that for option number one and option number one only, we as a district have determined that a student who accesses that must be 2 or more years below on iReady. Now, a school site is going to have way more students than what that one option can offer. And so the idea would be that as a school that's being responsive to the needs of their students, another option could possibly meet another student's needs, because it's not every student's needs are not going to be met by this one option. And what happened is option number one got a lot of attention because that's the one option that went to board. But as I shared, there are multiple options to afford many opportunities to our students. Some of the challenges right now are, though, as I shared with you, those two models, the models that are solely site implemented and facilitated, meaning our site teachers are teaching. It's been tough to staff because our teachers, for many reasons, haven't been as available as they have been in the past because of many challenges that many individuals are facing right now. And so this one option that I'm referring to as far as being centrally designed is just one of a menu of options for tutoring. I hope that's clarified a little bit for you.
Yeah, and I took a picture of what you shared at the beginning of the presentation because I did ask if there were other options, because I remember Dr. Heenan in the board meeting being very emphatic that this was also tutoring going to be available for students with IEPs. Right. But, break happened, all of these other things were impacting our family, so I didn't. But thank you for that information. But absolutely. I want to make sure that this is, how are we getting this information out to other families about the other options? Because I don't think it's trickling down to teachers and classrooms.
Right, so like the other options that a school is offering.
Yes.
For clarity. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, Lilia Ocampo is saying that she has a school and the school didn't have information to give her, like what to do. The school is not giving information to the parents.
Can you tell me a little bit more? So I'm not sure what the question is.
Lilia, are you available? Lilia asked the school where her student is, and the school didn't have information to give her about tutoring. So what to do when the school tells you we don't have information? So I would encourage you, they might not have tutoring in place just yet. So I would encourage you to ask some more clarifying questions, go to the counselor. Of course, if the counselor cannot answer those questions, then I would encourage you, you can reach out to me as well to help you to get the answers that you're looking for. Okay. I'm going to forward the comment from Adriana Garcia. It's a long comment about IEP not being answered. So hopefully that one, gets to move forward. I have another question. This one is mine personally. Okay. It seems then that you allow tutors to go into the classrooms to help the students on academics, correct?
We can. So for the new option, which is option number one, which is based on a lot, like I shared, the additional funding that we have, these one-time fundings, the new research that we've been analyzing. For option number one, they can. But of course, a school's schedule would have to be able to accommodate that.
Okay.
So
My question is actually like if we are allowing tutors in, why is it that the district does not allow ABA therapists in the district? Because my kid has been on 10-week waiting list, and it looks like it's going to be another 10 weeks because also they are struggling with staffing. They have plenty of staffing for the school hours. They just don't have staffing for the afternoon. That's when they are short. And they say, oh, what district is your kid? We could do in the district. And when I say, oh, it's Long Beach Unified, they pretty much say, oh, well, goodbye. It's going to be another 10 weeks because Long Beach does not allow ABA therapists in the classroom. And my kid does not suffer academically, but behavioral, his organization, his executive skills are still a mess, maybe because of the pandemic, maybe because of he's autistic.
Right.
But I think, just like tutoring addresses academics, maybe the system will allowing therapists, ABA therapists to go into the classroom will support kids with behavioral intervention.
I would again defer to one of our special ed admin about the ABA comment because I don't have that information for you. I'm sorry.
And Magda, I know that we try to not talk specifically about students' issues and concerns, but I'm not exactly sure of the specifics around your child.
Just every ABA company I contact, when they ask what district is your kid, and I say Long Beach Unified, they say, sorry, we can't help you because Long Beach does not allow ABA therapists in the classrooms. Other districts do, but not Long Beach.
We do have ABA therapists, but they're contracted with the district. They're not outside providers. And usually we do that because of liability purposes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But why don't you, if you want to reach out to me, and let me know, and maybe we can, have, some brains to talk about maybe some being creative with options. I'm definitely willing to do that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And obviously, if this can help all of the parents, not
definitely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody has a question? I think from the chat, we have everything now. And okay, closing the Q&A for the district. Katie, we can move on the agenda with charter schools.
Magda, thank you so much for facilitating the questions. I had one thing that I wanted to just share really quickly, and then is that okay, Katie?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We have shared a few times that we have these parent caregiver informational meetings around some of the topics that have been expressed as far as things wanting to know more about. And I just wanted, we're going to share the flyers in the chat with you. I just wanted to point this out because we had to make an adjustment with one of the dates. So previously, this navigating the special education process in LBUSD, it was going to be held in January, and we're having to kind of bump things back just a little bit. So I just wanted to make sure that if you had registered or you had this on your calendar, that you were aware that there's been an adjustment in those dates. So I didn't want anyone to show up next week and go, where is everybody? So, and we hope that you can take advantage of some of these opportunities if they feel like they would be helpful to you. So again, thank you for having us tonight. And I know that Dr. Owens is going to share those in the chat with you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing what our school is offering, and looking forward to trying to get my son in the next LRAP session if able to. The next presenter, so I'm sorry I didn't do the best introduction in the beginning. The second half of our meeting is also very exciting as well. So we're going to hear from Anita Rave. She's going to present about charter schools. She's a director of a charter school. So she's going to spend some time presenting about what is charter schools and talk about that. And then after the charter school presentation, we are going to hear from a panel of homeschool parents, which I'm pretty excited to hear from too. So I just wanted to make sure that I included those two because they're equally important. Thank you. And Anita can go ahead and start. And then also one more thing, if you want to put your name for attendance or one of the CAC members can take the attendance, that would be really good too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Maria, specifically for the invitation to come meet with this group tonight. Can I go ahead and share my screen? Okay. Okay, so good evening, everybody. My name is Anita Ravi. I am indeed the executive director and the principal at We the People High School, which is a new charter school here in Long Beach. Before I get started talking about We the People in special education, here's just a little bit about me. These are the places I've lived. I've lived in New York City. That's where I became a teacher in the 1990s. The first school I taught at was called School of the Future, which meant we had computers. It was the future. Then I met my husband and we moved to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I worked at the University of Pittsburgh for a number of years at a place called the Institute for Learning. And then I spent a good number of years in Pittsburgh Public Schools as the social studies supervisor, working on curriculum, working on supporting teachers. And then that's my daughter and my husband, we all moved to Long Beach almost 11 years ago now. So we've been here a while. And when I moved to California is when I learned what charter schools were. I didn't really know before that. I was the chief academic officer at Alliance College Ready Public Schools, which is the largest charter network in Los Angeles. At the time, we had 23 schools, all middle and high. And I've done a number of consulting things, but the latest and really my life's work is culminating in We the People High School. This is my daughter and my husband. My daughter's actually a senior at Millikan. So I'm a Long Beach parent also. So she's a senior getting ready to graduate. It's a very exciting time around here and stressful. So that's me. So again, I'm one charter school leader of one small charter school. There's a lot of advocacy organizations here in California that have tons of information that I can provide if requested. But really the overview of, what are charter schools? At a base level, charter schools are public schools. They're the result of a charter school law that was passed in 1996. And the goal of that law was to promote innovation in schooling, and to provide some high quality programs specifically to low income youth and to high needs youth here in California. Charter school founders go through a process to apply for a charter from their local district and or their local office of education, which we did. And in California, in the state, 10% of the students here do attend a charter school, which is approximately 600,000 students in California. So more students attend charter schools in the state than there are students in most other states. It's a lot of kids, a lot of options. These are just two schools, not here in Long Beach, but these are, when it comes to special education in particular, these are two great examples of really innovative full inclusion charter schools. So TLC Public Charter School, the image on the left-hand side of your screen, it's a TK through 8 located in Orange, right here in Orange County. And they do really amazing, interesting programming with a heavy focus on the arts, full inclusion. And then Chime, which is
Chime, que es la escuela que está al lado derecho de la página.
Un segundo.
También kinder octavo.
Estamos escuchando la traducción en español de nuevo. It looks like we're hearing the Spanish translation on the English channel again. I'm so sorry, Anita. There's something technical here. And the Spanish channel people are saying that they can't hear it.
Okay.
Let's see if that's better.
How is it now for everyone? Are folks hearing the right language?
Okay, let's continue.
Okay. So on the right-hand side of your screen is Chime Institute, which is a well-known, been around for a long time, innovative, full inclusion, special education charter school in Los Angeles. So I recommend, if you're interested in looking at different models, these are a great place to just start, see what they're up to. We the People so I'll tell you more about We the People now. We're a new public charter school here in Long Beach. We opened last year, 2020, in the pandemic, which is a little bit crazy, with our founding class of 9th grade students. So all the photos you're seeing are of my students. Our mission is to empower this generation with the knowledge, the practice, and the tools to radically change the world for the better. So our saying at We the People is that every student will be known, will be heard, and will be powerful. We do this by designing a program, an instructional program that's centered around real world issues. So for example, in our 9th grade integrated science course this semester, kids are learning about water use. How do we protect and preserve our water resources here in Long Beach and globally? We do a lot of project-based learning. We have a huge focus on environmental science throughout all of our science courses. We have a filmmaking and media studies concentration, and you're going to see a tiny film clip later from one of our kids. We have a big focus on community projects, and then in 11th and 12th grade internships. And our curriculum also focuses on civic participation in government. We're very big on choice. So students always have a choice of what they're reading, of what their project is. And then they have a voice in what they learn and how they learn. Our program for students with IEPs in our school. So charter schools are public schools. We are funded the same way as traditional public schools. We try to offer as many of the same services, but we're a choice and we're much smaller. So our program does focus on full inclusion. All of our students with IEPs currently are mild or moderate. And we offer what mirrors what a majority of charter schools offer in the state. Nationally, in charter schools, students spend about 85% of their day in the general education classroom, which is compared to traditional public schools nationally, that number is about 67%. So we the People strive for as much time as possible in the general education program with push-in support when needed. So our program, in terms of holistically over the 4 years, we focus on these 3 A's. So apprenticeship, advocacy, and action. So what does this mean for a student with an IEP? It means that starting right at the beginning of the school year in 9th grade, our students learn about the process and the content of their own IEPs. So what is an eligibility? What is an individual education plan? What's the process? How do I exit out of special education? Giving them the tools to understand this whole process and this document is the core of empowering them to take ownership over those goals and those supports. And we hold high expectations for all students. So we accommodate before we modify. In terms of advocacy, our goal by 11th grade is that all of our students with IEPs are running their own IEP meetings. So if we work backwards from that, it means that we have to get them ready each year to take that on by 11th grade. And that's because, 2 years later, they're leaving us. They need to learn how to advocate for themselves and for their...
Es la niña.
And then finally, are you guys okay with the translation? Is it all right? Yeah?
Yeah, I could hear
Yeah,
you.
sorry, it wasn't a translation. Somebody was unmuted.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry. And then finally, in terms of action, it's really important for us that students see themselves, their histories, their literatures in our curriculum, in the books they read, and that students use all kinds of resources, film, writing, speaking, and performance to tell their own stories and advocate for their own causes. So I'm going to play this tiny little video clip. This is one of our students talking about a piece that he's working on in film class. So Magda, since I can see you on my screen, when I start playing it, will you give me a thumbs up if you can hear him? Okay.
Hello, my name is Armani. I'm from the People. I am in 10th grade. Today, I'll be talking about my segment, which is autism. The only why I'm talking about this is because I have autism, and the people need to hear about autism because people have been bullied a lot. So I decided to do this autism segment for the people who've been bullied, so they can stand up against those bullies. And now that's your segment for WTP TV. Yep. Thank you, Armani.
So the 10th graders just launched our TV station this year, and each one of them is working on a segment around an issue of importance to them. And so, yes, that's what Armani's segment is.
Hello.
This is where we're located. We're on Long Beach Boulevard, right below PCH. We share a campus with the other charter high school here in town. We are actually partners, called Intellectual Virtues Academy High School. And then also Centro Chas shares this building with us. So that's our entry, that's our library. Really, that's it. I wanted to just pause and take any questions that you have. Again, I'll try and answer questions about charter schools broadly as best I can. So I'll pause there for questions.
Well, not a question, but someone is very interested in having your presentation. If you can mail it to us and we can mail it to our distribution list, that will be the one thing.
Yep.
Now, there's one question here. Students receive RSP in the environment of general education. For this type of school, mild and moderate, do you have RSP for students?
We do. So we have built into our schedule something called flex time, and it kind of goes with the previous presentation on high dose tutoring. All 9th and 10th graders have flex time. Mm-hmm. Students with IEPs get the services that they need in a pull-out environment during that time. Mm-hmm. But it's flexible. Our goal is not to always separate out kids with IEPs. If the student gets that support that they need, they've met their instructional minutes, they go into a different kind of flex time, maybe with the science teacher or the math teacher, to get support and tutoring in a particular content area. So it's in the schedule as flex, and then we use that time to both meet the requirements of students with IEPs, but all students are getting additional supports.
Yeah. Any other question?
I have a question. Are the class sizes smaller? I mean, what's the major difference between charter schools and public schools? I don't really know much about charter schools.
Yeah, we are super small because of the pandemic. So our class sizes are 20 all the way down to 16. So they are quite small. Because we're directly funded, so, we're obviously way more small. We're just one school. We're much smaller than a district. We're much smaller than a district school. And we're directly funded. So districts have a lot of overhead, right? And a lot of employees. Charter schools are just, it's as if you just removed a school out. And so the direct funding goes directly into the school. I mean, we do pay rent. We pay for costs and books, and we pay for our teachers. All our teachers have to be certified in the content area that they teach, just like in regular public schools. So really the only difference is the autonomy piece. So the deal is when you get your charter, we go back to have that charter renewed every 5 to 7 years. And we have to perform, our students have to perform better than students would in the district. So there's increased accountability that goes along with some of that freedom, some freedom with our curriculum, some more freedom in hiring. Mm-hmm. So that's the balance, really.
There is one question is if a student with IEP goes to your school, can they change their mind and return to the district school again?
Yeah, I mean, all students can do that. Students, you're not locked into any public school, and parents should know this. These are our schools, mm-hmm. right? Milliken High School is my school as a parent. We the People is my school as an employee. You can place your child in the school where you want them to go.
Mm-hmm. Anita, I have a quick question. Are you an independent charter or are you dependent charter for special ed purposes?
We are an independent charter, and the SELPA that we belong to is the LA County Charter SELPA.
Okay,
so
fantastic.
So that means that we get amazing support and services from the LA County Special Education Division.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I think parents need to know that different charters belong to different SELPAs, which are special ed local plan areas, so that if a parent does choose to attend this charter, they would not be served by Long Beach Unified School District. So thank you for clarifying that they're served by LACO charter. Thank you.
Jacinda has a question. Jacinda, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what are the services that you provide students with special needs if they would go to your charter school?
We provide what the student requires. So if our student requires speech services, we contract for those services. If the student, requires OT, we contract for that. And by contract, I mean, there are actual vendors. Since you all are with the district, all of those services are inclusive inside of the district. For independent charter schools, we actually contract with an agency that provides certificated individuals in those specific areas. So everything from therapy to OT to all those kinds of services. But my special education teacher is there for the academic support.
Okay. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to briefly comment. I'm going to be talking later about homeschooling, but I want to stress this sounds like a very exciting option that would work for some of the same kids who I'll be talking about when I talk about homeschooling, because it offers a different approach, which sounds like it is well tailored to the student.
Yes, and we do have several students who were homeschooled prior to high school who come and are just thriving.
Okay, so it looks like that's it, unless...
Jacinda had her hand up too.
Okay, let's see.
Just taking my hand off.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Anita, for presenting about charter schools. It really fits in with our topics today, and it's nice for our families to know that there is other options for their students. So we really appreciate your presentation tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right, so we are moving on to our final presentation for tonight. This is a homeschooling panel of some parents and actually a couple students that have been homeschooled will be sharing as well. So this topic, I think, became more pertinent because of the whole distant learning experience. You know, with the whole pandemic, there's some things that parents found out about their kids. Some parents found out that maybe their kids do better at home because they don't have the anxiety of going to school for whatever reason. So some families might have found out that homeschooling is a better option for their child, although it's not for everybody. Also, going to a very structured public education system is not for everybody. So it's good to know that there's other options available. And so one of our board members basically thought this would be a really good topic to have. And it's kind of like if somebody wanted to homeschool their kid, they probably wouldn't even know how to go about it. I certainly have no clue. So tonight, I did ask a series of questions for our parents. So these are the questions that I asked them. So this is what the questions that are going to be answered in the presentation. The first question was, why did you choose homeschool for your child? The second one is, how did you go about learning how to do this? How to do homeschool? How did you go about it, like the research involved? The third question is, what and how do your child get their services? Because obviously our group of students are a special they're a population that needs services. So we're curious about that. We also would like to know, what are the pros and the cons of homeschooling? And then the other question is how do you socialize your child with other children? What kind of extracurricular activities are they involved in? And the last question is pretty much anything else they would like to share. So I'm pretty excited. We have a diverse group tonight. The first presenters, Jennifer and Jody. I'm going to have Jennifer go first. They both have children that are currently being homeschooled. So I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer now. And thank you so much for all our parents and the students that are about to share.
Hello, can everybody hear me okay? My internet's been going in and out today. So, all right. My name is Jennifer Gutermont. I have a 10-year-old who was part of the Long Beach Unified, and prior to the pandemic, so he has been on an IEP. 504s started in TK, and through the years up to second grade, when we chose to homeschool, he was really struggling in the public school environment with all the accommodations that were in place, and the IEP, a BIP, one-on-one aids. He is ADHD, sensory processing, and also on the spectrum. Towards the end, when I took him out was in February of 2020, it became a very stressful and anxious environment during that period of time for the both of us. So we decided to homeschool. Speaking with other parents and coworkers of mine who were homeschooling, I started looking into the charter through iLead. So it's a homeschool charter program. They also accept IEPs. So the process of going through that was enrolling him, which was easy, online, and then getting the school that he was currently enrolled in to sign off to release him. And I then turned that into iLead, and then he was accepted. We started immediately. They just wanted a copy of his IEP to see which services he was receiving. And at that time, it was, he had his behavioral intervention plan in place. He had occupational therapy in place. And he also had ERMS and receiving one-on-one counseling. So they were able to accommodate that. The only thing that wasn't being accommodated was one-on-one intervention or having his aid, because we were now at home and it was basically one-on-one, just him and I. So the benefits of homeschooling him have been continuing his special educational needs and the freedom of teaching him what he needs. So, for example, writing is somewhere where he really struggles. So instead of pushing him to write the 5 paragraphs in, a week or two, however long a regular classroom setting they would need, I can push that out further for him. We can break it up to where he's comfortable and still get the end result of having him write several paragraphs. In areas where he's excelling, we don't have to spend as much time. So an example of our day would be we do about 2 to 3 days of math during the week, and then a couple of days of his English and language arts. And he also does his science and social studies probably about 2 days a week. This year we did things a little bit different. You are allotted funds, and those funds can go towards paying for in-person classes or online classes. So he is taking an online science class once a week, and it's only for 1 hour, so it's perfect for him. It's a little bit more freely structured, so he has the ability to move around in the classroom. And since it's only 1 hour, he's able to tolerate that amount of time. I'm able to stay in the class if I wanted to, or step out. So it's not as structured as a classroom. And let's see what else. As far as other, his, I lost my place. His services that he's getting, he's still continuing occupational therapy. During the beginning of the pandemic, it was online, and that was a bit difficult for him to stay engaged with that. But as things have been opening up more, we are able to do in-person occupational therapy, which is, he's doing much better with in-person versus virtual. He's still continuing one-on-one therapy that is also through Zoom, and he does pretty good with that. But like any child, some days are better than others where he's more engaged. And we have an educational facilitator that we meet with once a week to make sure that we are on target. He's fourth grade, so that he's, you know, on target for fourth grade reading, math, and writing and science. And we turn in at least one example of work that gets turned in to the state. So this way that goes forward so he can progress to the next grade level. And so homeschooling for him has been being able to complete tasks at his own pace, and he's excelled more so socially, emotionally at home than he was in the classroom. He was being sent out of the classroom a bit, and so at least here, if he's struggling with something, have the time to take a break, and there's not a bunch of eyes on him when he's having a meltdown. So we can, hold on, sorry, you need to go. I have an audience right now. So I really don't have any cons. I feel he's much happier at home than he was in the classroom. And as far as extracurricular, I mentioned earlier that we get funds to pay for classes for our curriculum. He loves to skateboard, so he actually goes once a week for an hour for one-on-one skateboarding classes. So that's where he's getting his social interaction with peers, is his science class and his skating classes. And you'll be hearing from Jody next. So Jody and I sometimes meet up, and we also try to do field trips. But again, you know, sometimes with the pandemic, everything's a little bit more difficult. So we make every opportunity that becomes available to meet with other kids his age to get that social interaction. And as far as transitioning him from the public school to the charter, with his IEP, it was very easy. I always felt trying to get any type of services for my son through the district was very difficult. I had to find, you know, creative ways to get things done for him. You know, because the one thing they always said, well, he's so smart, so he should be able to do, you know, XYZ, or listen to the classroom, follow the rules. But one thing with, you know, kids like my son is, you know, their academic intelligence has nothing to do with their social emotional. And it was really difficult to bridge that gap to meet those two together in order to get him to be successful in the classroom. So a lot of those behavioral challenges kind of overstepped his, you know, his academic part. So he began to fall behind academically because he was being removed from the classroom or sent out of the classroom because of his behavioral challenges. So being at home, those behavioral challenges have decreased quite a bit, I think, because the anxiety is no longer there. And, you know, just being able to be a bit more relaxed at home in an environment where he feels, you know, more safe and heard versus in the classroom. So I never thought I was going to be a homeschool mom, but it's much different now. I think the resources that are available for students like my son, and just having the ability to choose what topics we want to work on and what works best for him, and having the ability to move around, whether we want to work in the living room, the kitchen, nice days we're outside, and having some things online versus, you know, we have to sit at a desk for 6 hours a day. So he's allowed to take those breaks when he needs. And I'm happy to say he's probably happier now being home than being at school. So that's made a huge difference for us. And so I think that's, that's it.
Thank you, Jennifer. Could you put in the chat the charter you say your homeschooling belongs to, or the supports that you have?
I don't know if Jody wants to go now.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Is my internet okay? Okay, there's no like slow, and you can hear me all right? Okay. Okay, great. Okay. Thanks, Jennifer. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Jody Gossett. So my child was actually a Long Beach Unified School District student as well. He started at Buffum, and we continued on with the district TK to kinder. And it was the kinder year that became really challenging. So around the same time as Jennifer, around February of 2020, about 4 weeks before school shut down and pandemic started, was when we pulled our son from the district and chose to homeschool. The reason for that being, in all honesty, we just really...
Yeah, I could do that.
Sorry. Are we okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So really, we just really were unhappy with the quality of the special education that we were receiving, as and it was really starting to affect his mental health. And we saw it because the behaviors were there, and he was also communicating it to me. So we decided to go ahead and remove him from the district and explore other options. And I just basically reached out to other parents who I knew that were also homeschooling their children, and I jumped in, community platforms through Facebook and whatnot for homeschool communities, because really Long Beach has a huge homeschooling community. And so, they're all out there. So I did my research. I asked questions, I reached out, made friends, gathered all my information, and then just, made the best decision for our child and our family. And that's when we decided to choose iLead, iLead Exploration, as the homeschool charter of our choice. So iLead is a public school charter. And so we homeschool through their independent study program, which basically means that because it is a public school, we also get the IEP services just like all public schools. And that was really important to me because, my son had an IEP and I still wanted him to have his services. And so the type of services that my child receives, he receives RSP, which through this program is called SAI. It's called Specialized Academic Instruction, but it's basically the equivalent to RSP. He also receives speech therapy, and he also receives his occupational therapy from there. And, same thing, same IEP looks the same, goals, services, interventions, all of that. Same thing, we meet once a year, sometimes twice, depending on how often I call an IEP meeting, but, typically it's one time a year to do the IEP meeting. Same thing, they do the triennials, all of that stuff. Basically, when we chose to leave the district, Jennifer already kind of explained the process. And then within 30 days, we held it's like the meeting that you do when you have an IEP with the charter, and they explain, we kind of regroup and talk about his IEP and all that stuff. And then basically his special education services started within like 2 weeks, I would say about 2-3 weeks. So there wasn't really a huge gap. Let's see, what else? The pros and cons. I'll start with the cons. The cons being just really that initial adjustment period. and it was really more for me, having to train myself, untrain myself, to kind of follow that traditional classroom model of teaching my child and all of that. And so I really felt, so we basically unschooled my child for that first year. Unschooling basically is just learning about your child, learning about how, what their learning style is, what their interests are. And so it was really me kind of tailoring and catering to the best way that my child would learn and, take in information. And so we really spent that first year doing that. And then from there, after learning about, his interests, topics, also like his strengths academically and everything, that's when I was able to kind of work with the education facilitator that we're assigned with, who is a credentialed teacher. So all the EFs have to be credentialed. And so she really works with me on, creating his curriculum, assignments, projects, things like that. And so it's not like me doing everything by myself, because I'm definitely not a teacher by profession. And so it's really, so it's more of a collaborative effort with me and her. And then we do have to meet every month to make sure that he's finishing all his assignments. We have to turn in work samples, writing samples, which are all in his work. And then basically, they're the ones who are grading and checking off and making sure, that he's attending, he's learning, and he also gets tested as well in the fall and the spring to make sure that he is reaching those benchmarks and that he is performing at grade level, and that he's learning. So let's see. The pros, really, it's, he's doing a lot better. His mental health is a lot better. He's not as anxious. There's still challenges because just like with all kids, it's hard to get them to do work. Sometimes they don't feel like it. But really for my child, he's really thriving. He's doing really well. I think it's also because, the environment, I'm his one-to-one teacher. I'm his primary teacher. We take breaks when we want to take breaks. We get to structure our day, the way that we want to structure it. And so there's definitely a lot less pressure, and it doesn't feel like school. So he's really enjoying it. And I get to spend more time with him, which is really nice. Let's see, what else? How do I socialize my child? So socialization, that was obviously really difficult, and I'm sure a lot of parents weren't able to do that during the pandemic. So our years of homeschooling also haven't exactly been the way maybe traditional homeschooling would be, where you'd have a lot more resources and opportunities for socialization and activities and whatnot. So, but to that respect, he is, for those first 4 weeks, he did attend a learning center. So there are learning centers here in Long Beach, and basically a learning center is, basically that is a learning center, and they provide academic instruction on subjects like English, math, social studies, and science. And so we were really fortunate to find one here in Long Beach. He's starting to attend again. So he goes there 2 days a week. And so that's where he gets all his socialization. It's basically set up like a Montessori style school. So everyone who's there, the students are TK through 5th grade, but they do break them out into smaller groups, like, age level. There's about 25 right now at the Learning Center. And so he gets a lot of his socialization there. There's also, like I said, a huge homeschooling community in Long Beach. And so it's reaching out to, all the different co-ops, play groups, all of these things. I mean, it's amazing. It's really, there's a lot, and connecting with those communities. And then also play dates with, other families and friends that we, did meet at the district. So we still keep in touch with them. So those are, on the regular outside as much as we can for now. And then as far as extracurriculars, just like Jennifer said, we do get funding from our independent charter school. And basically the funding that we receive as families, we get to use that money for curriculum, materials, extracurricular activities, that we want to put our children in. So for example, with my child, we did swimming lessons, we did martial arts. We also currently right now, he does piano lessons as well as voice lessons, and those are all paid for through the charter funds. And it's really just honing in on his interests, asking him, so what do you feel like doing? What do you want to try? So that's been really great. And that also is, and you can include that, right, as learning. So those are all learning opportunities for him. Let me see, I think I answered all the questions as best as I could. I don't really have anything else to add. So, but thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer and Jody. So now, so we just heard from two parents that are currently homeschooling their children. Now we're going to turn the presentation to Steve Askin, who has homeschooled his kids and they're grown. And then he's also going to introduce his daughter and another homeschool student. Thank you.
So it is so exciting to hear from the parents who are getting started on homeschooling during the pandemic. I'm here with my daughter, Sophia, and her partner, Franz Michael, who were homeschooled from 2nd grade through high school. And no, it is not a disaster. They are doing wonderful and amazing things in their lives. So I'm going to try to cover a bit of a broader scope because we've heard of the homeschool charter schools, which are very important if you need to get if you need to get special ed services. Both of the young adults who are here now actually went through remarkably successfully getting those services only occasionally because they were mostly homeschooled independently. So I have 4 things I'm going to try to cover quickly before I turn it over to the experts. First, I need to acknowledge what everybody who hasn't already tried it is thinking. Homeschooling seems scary. When we started with it, it was Sophia and 3 of her siblings. They were in kinder through 3rd grade. They were in a wonderful small public charter school, which was wonderful for most kids, but the classroom wasn't working for them as they struggled with a mix of dyslexia and specific learning disabilities. And I should say I was so excited to hear from We the People because the building they're in is actually one of the buildings that we had in the charter school that we were part of. But when things weren't working, my wife said, let's try homeschooling. I have to admit, I think moms probably do better on this than dads. I was really scared. I thought this would be a 1-year experiment. We wouldn't be able to accomplish it, and they'd have to go back into the traditional classroom. Today, I'm a parent of 4 young adults, ages 18 through 23, who move smoothly through homeschooling to pursue their career goals and are now all in the community college system. Second, I want to say that it's important to know that every homeschool experience is different because every child learns differently. Some kids benefit from traditional curriculum-based learning, either with parents trading off on leading subject matter classes or as we've heard through the homeschool charter schools. The homeschool charter schools, as you heard, are essential if you have a need for substantial special ed services. And if you are looking at a homeschool charter school, it is critical that you network with other parents to find out which of them are doing a good job on special ed, and iLead, which we heard from today, is one of them, and which of them are trying to avoid providing services, because that exists also in the charter school world. There are also families that homeschool independently, and that can be more highly self-directed by the student. We've experienced a range of approaches in our family, depending on each child's needs. And our daughter, Sophia, who you're going to hear from a little bit later, found that book learning was slowed by dyslexia. She learned by exploring nature and exploring new places. From a very young age, she started traveling with other families. Their kids sometimes traveled with us. As a young adult, she has been a pilot in training who's flown planes not just in this country, but also abroad. Whether that will be a career or a hobby is a decision that lies ahead for her. But homeschooling, as I think she'll tell you, really opened up a wide range of possibilities. Third, and we heard mention of this, and I know how hard it is during the pandemic, a constant that was essential for us was becoming part of the larger homeschooling community. Our kids participated in the homeschool playgroups when they were young. We participated in bi-monthly campouts with other homeschool families, which was a great opportunity for kids of multiple ages to learn from each other. And through that homeschooling community, we really became close to dozens of homeschooling families, and we watched as their children thrived. And Sophia and Franz Michael actually met through that homeschooling community. Fourth, homeschooling works better for some students than for others. In my experience getting to know homeschooling families, I've seen it work especially well for kids who are diagnosed with ADHD or with mild to moderate autism. Classroom, even with the best supports, isn't well defined for those children. Indeed, many parents would argue, and I would argue, that to some extent ADHD is really an allergy to being forced to spend 6 hours per day sitting in more or less the same room with occasional breaks. Now, 2 of our children did homeschooling through 8th grade and then went back into the public system. Finally, as another parent mentioned, it is possible to move back and forth. Our son decided he wanted the sports that he could get at Wilson High School, so he went to Wilson. One of our children developed significant mental health issues as a preteen, and that child was transferred back into LBUSD, and we will always be grateful to LBUSD for helping that child obtain an excellent residential treatment placement. So you don't have to stay in homeschooling forever. It is not hard for kids to move back into the public system. To sum up, there are many paths to homeschooling. I'm going to put my contact info into the chat for parents who want to discuss homeschooling further. And I could go on much longer, but that would be a disservice to all of you because the real experts are here with me. And so that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Franz Michael and Sophia. If there's time for questions, we can all take them after.
Yeah, thank you very much, Steve. You want to start off? Yeah. Okay. So I'm Franz Michael. Yeah, like Steve said, I've been homeschooled from 2nd grade onward. My parents originally pulled me out of the school that I was in due to a couple of reasons. One of the main ones being that I am dyslexic, and the school system really just could not provide me with the support that I needed in order to overcome that and to learn how to read in the best way for my brain. And my dad actually experienced a very similar thing. And so there's kind of these flashbacks for them. He didn't get that support and still struggles with dyslexia to this day pretty heavily. And so them pulling me out really gave us the opportunity to connect me with the right instructors and tutors to help me learn better in the way that my brain works. And through that process, I was really able to take on more of the approach of, I like to call it custom schooling. It was a little bit more self-directed, like Steve was mentioning, down that path. My parents took down the whole gambit of starting off sort of from school at home, where you'd have a CD and you plug it into your computer and play that back, all the way over to eventually where we ended up, which was where we would have conversations about, what direction, what areas I'm feeling like I want to have more knowledge in, where am I lacking some of that knowledge? And then through that, they would connect me with different teachers and mentors that would help me gain what I was looking for. And that was really an incredible experience for me. It worked extremely well for me and was able to help me down the path of following my passions and expanding my creativity and curiosity to ultimately become a lifelong learner today. And through that process, I was even able to be one of the youngest people to exhibit one of my games that I made. I made video games for a while at the largest video game conference in the world called E3. I would definitely not have been able to do that if I stayed in the public school system or any school system for that matter. And I wouldn't have had the resources around me to actually take that on and learn how to do that. So the really great part out of that was that I would be learning mathematics, about music, about history, about art, all of these different things, science, and combining that into the projects in a real world sense that allowed me to better retain that information over time. So for me, that was incredible. And it also gave me then finally, one of the big opportunities was, as Steve mentioned as well, to travel. My family was fortunate enough to be able to travel. My grandparents on my dad's side they live in Austria, and he was born and raised there. So we went back and forth between Europe, and I was able to see a lot of history firsthand through that, which again gave me the opportunity to really let that sink in and stick with me. So yeah, that's kind of the short and sweet of it. As Steve said, I think I could go on for hours. One of the other key points that I want to mention is on the social side of things. This is a common thing that we hear all the time in the homeschooling world. How do you socialize? What do you do? And in my experience, it's actually much less of an issue than it seems. There's lots and lots of homeschool groups out there. There's park day groups. My parents even started a homeschooling group in the Bay Area where, hundreds of teens would come together basically and interact and hang out and talk and even organize their own events together. So I've made many, many, many lifelong friends through that. Many that have, pursued careers alongside me as well, and we help each other out. And I see it almost as this network effect of homeschoolers, because every time I meet somebody and I find out that they're homeschooled or that they have been homeschooled, it's an instant connection that you get through that as well.
Thank you.
I'm going to throw one question at Sophia, which I think is an easy question. Sophia is a pilot in training. What do you think is the likelihood that you would be piloting planes now if you had gone through the normal school system?
Very unlikely. I got to start flying when most people were just in, doing high school stuff. Like, I would think my first flight was when I was 15, and I've been able to consistently fly. Well, when we were traveling, we would take some breaks, but I've been able to consistently fly and get a really good foundation on how to fly because of that. And it's been the same experience with things that you've done, is that you've been able to excel when you've had just because you've had the chance to. Where sometimes because you have such a set schedule with regular high school or other schools, you don't have time to do that. Yeah.
Or even worse, I mean, for both of us, with dyslexia, you're put into a box, right? You're said, this is who you are, this is what it is. And, you'll never amount to anything more than this baseline, right? Where with the schooling that we both had, we had this opportunity where, we were encouraged to explore much farther past what maybe a lot of people would say that, your potential is. And that really, really, it set the bar as the sky's the limit. Right. And so now it's pretty amazing.
And one thing I'll say, as a parent, one of the things that we learned with Sophia, which I think, and I have to say, I want to look at Rachel, I want to look at Ken. We really appreciate the special ed services that one of our kids received through the district, which were essential. Homeschooling does not work for everyone, but in Sophia's case, what we discovered together is that things come together for her when she physically touches them and experiences them. And it would have been much harder for her to get that diversity of experience in a traditional classroom. So we love our LBUSD. We love the fact that there are alternatives in the charter school world, but our family is also delighted to talk with and share support with anybody who decides that homeschooling is best for them. And I better shut up now so that there's time for a few questions.
Yes, thank you. If anybody has a question, then please raise their hand or put it on the chat. Well, I think it has been great to hear from students. Originally, we only planned to hear from parents, particularly because of the pandemic, and people mistook remote learning by homeschooling. Like, I am horrible at it, at remote schooling, of course, but I have no idea what really homeschooling is. And I think that was an important distinction to make. Remote learning, what we did during the pandemic, does not equate homeschooling, and we wanted to, leave that to open. So I think we're going to move on to public comments, not necessarily Q&A for this particular topic. So if anybody has any question, please go ahead, either raise their hand, put it on the chat.
Well, I think major kudos goes to the parents that are brave enough to do the homeschooling thing. I personally don't think I'm brave enough to do it, but major kudos goes to Steve, Jennifer, and Jody. for doing that for your kid. I mean, that is true advocating for your kid and trying to do what's best for them. And thank you all for your presentations tonight. It's really good presentations. But is there, so I guess the last part we reserve for announcements. Anybody have any announcements? Trying to see if there's any hands. Any shout outs, any like, any special shout outs?
Well, definitely shout outs for everybody who spoke today. I have learned a lot and I think my brain has expanded a bunch. I think I see a little bit more of a, options and lights and where to start when we want to explore what else is there for our kiddos. Thank you for the district presentation on tutoring and innovation. I hope, more people take advantage of that as well.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to quickly acknowledge our board members that are here. I still see Ms. Craighead, Ms. Kerr. I know that Dr. Benitez was on earlier. So I just want to thank them for their ongoing support and for our staff who I know have been really hit hard, and I know our families by this coronavirus, but for being here tonight. And so I just really want to thank everybody for their time and for being here. So thank you again.
Yes, I'd like to echo the support of our board. It's really great to see that you, the board members, regularly attend our meetings. We definitely feel supported and we feel heard. So thank you very much for coming to our meetings. And everybody who attends our meetings, of course, administrators. And then obviously we're trying to recruit more parents because that's how we're really going to make some more positive changes.
¿Puedo hacer mi última pregunta? Perdón.
Claro.
Oh. Acerca de...
question. Regarding of the changes, all the changes that everyone's going through, the kids are going through changes. Is there something that Dr. Hagen can share with us, parents, if things are going to change? There's a lot of students that, are sick right now, especially our kids with, special needs. They have a, special, disability. That's a big worry for us, especially that so many kids are infected right now. Is there going to be is there something that Dr. Heenan can tell us, like if there's a plan, if there's a plan that for any changes, upcoming changes regarding such of the high numbers that we're seeing?
Are you able to translate what's been said?
Did you guys hear me? I translated for...
It was pretty broken up, but I think it has to do with the COVID situation. My biggest question is, when is testing going to happen for students? As a nurse, I kind of expected my kids to be tested before they went back to school. And I heard that there were going to be test kits from the state. Obviously, the test kits probably didn't make it. Thankfully, I vaccinated my kids, but a lot of kids are missing at my kids' school. So I would like to know, is testing going to resume, COVID testing? Like, what's going on with that?
Katie, I can't speak to the COVID testing, but I do know that the testing kits are being sent from the state, and they should be here very shortly.
Okay, so we have 1 minute left. There is one question here. Sorry, I'm not sure, Mariela, if I understand this. It says, what plan do they have for kids that have other conditions and have no control? I think it's related to the COVID situation, that have other medical conditions.
If they can go ahead and contact their school site and connect with their special ed administrator, we can work with their families in an IEP to discuss how we can meet their needs.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, it seems this is it. So thank you everybody for attending. Please don't forget to follow our social media accounts, because apparently some parents report that they don't get the invite on the emails. So it's always posted on Instagram and Facebook accounts for the CAC. Thank you, everybody. This has been great. It has been a very good meeting for everybody, and we really appreciate the support of the district and the community. Bye-bye, everybody.